sometimes we need to actually go back to the basics before we can, because like you're saying, someone will ask, what is an affirmation? But if you don't understand where
Good afternoon. It is Lubabalo Mnyaka again. You're listening to Health Space Podcast. We normally record on Wednesdays, but due to Natasha's affirmations, somehow that moved our recording to Thursday. But nothing is lost. You pretty much know our guest by now, and we're talking things health space. Health space is not only about the sickness, remedies, etc. It's also about prevention. It is also about looking after ourselves, not just physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, and all aspects of life. And we are honored to have Tash the Stylist joining us once again for the third time. And we've just been touching so many areas of life from our first episode together. And let's welcome our guest. Hi, Tash.
Hi, Luba. How are you?
Sure, I'm well. It's just been hectic. When you ask for things, you only think of what you want, and you forget things that come with your ask. You ask for rain, and you forget about mud. You forget about the inability to travel to certain places, the need to have a 4x4 if you stay in rurals, and you just focus on what you want. So that just sums up my week. It's been hectic, but I remain grounded and grateful. It's been good. It's been good. Things I've dreamt of, things I've seen myself acquiring, places I've seen myself visiting, they're all manifesting, and I'm just in awe, like, wow, okay, this works. So how have you been?
I think you've summed it up in your intro just now, that we ask for things, and I literally just got in the house. I was rushing because oh my gosh, the recording has to happen. Being a mompreneur, you've got mom duties, you've got the business running, and it's just been that kind of week for me also, just hectic, busy, but in a way, not complaining, because it's things that we pray for, things that we ask for, and then when they show up, it only makes us realize that maybe we were not prepared. And so it's in asking for these things, I think the most important is to ask for preparedness, to say when they do show up, then we are prepared to actually step into that space. But then again, can you ever really be prepared for where you're going? Because you don't even know how big and the space that you're entering into. So it's really a space that you only have to discover once you get there.
There's just so much happening, hey? There's just so much happening. But for someone listening, and we just went into, the deeper part of it, but what are we talking about? What are affirmations, and why do we need this? And where does this all originate from? And just brief us from your understanding.
Okay, from my understanding, well, let's get back to congratulating you on living your best life, because you're talking about visiting countries that you've only ever imagined and dreamed of, things that are spoken over your life, and to see that happening, that's already a confirmation of the conversation that we want to have, to say, what are affirmations? And for me personally, I take them from the Bible. And my favorite scripture that I like to go back to is in the beginning, Genesis 1. God said, let there be light, and there was light. So that speaks to me about the words that we speak, the things that we say, the things that we think. I've read this book, that as a man thinketh, so is he. So what consumes our minds, our thinking, really becomes the environment that we are creating for ourselves. And
Mm.
oftentimes we find ourselves thinking, good things don't happen for me, and good things end up not happening because that's what's consuming our mind. Because if we are created and we are spirit beings, it means that everything about us is operating at a spiritual level. So that means that whatever we think and whatever we're putting out there, that energy, that environment, that capacity to speak things is in that, speaking things, there is power in that.
Mm.
So it begins to create our world. So if things are not going right, it then says our thinking is not in the right place. Our speaking is not in the right place. And so we need to work that ground, put the right nutrients by thinking in the right way. And what does that look like? What does that mean? We come back to what you just shared with us to say, these are places you thought about going to, and now it's happening. Maybe this could have
Mm.
been 10 years, maybe it could have been 5, 2 years. It all depends on the lifetime span that has been given to you to say, at this point in your time, you are going to experience this. But you also need to be in tune with everything that's happening around you so that everything comes into alignment and you are then able to step into that space when the
Mm.
doors open.
Wow.
I know it's a
Wow.
mouthful.
Yeah, but someone else listening would say it's easier. You have it easy. You don't understand my problem. You don't understand where I'm coming from. You're talking from privilege. You didn't go through this. You didn't go through that. What do you say there?
I don't come from privilege. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I learned from when I was young was the power of my mind. Somehow, I don't know, by divine grace, I always used to think these big things, and my life has literally been shaped by my thoughts.
Mm.
And the good, the bad, the ugly. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just put it out there that it's not just the good that happens, even the bad things. Because when I meditate on the wrong things and the bad things, I've seen them come to pass. And when I meditate and think on the good things, I've also seen them happen. And I remember when I was younger, I was diagnosed with epilepsy.
Mm.
I was in primary school at that time. I hated, up to today, I hate taking tablets. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to spend the rest of my life taking medication.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I'm in primary school, getting into high school at that time. I know nothing about the power of thoughts. But this is just me thinking to myself, this is not the life I want to live, because I would just collapse anyway. I would
Mm.
roll down the stairs. It was terrible. And I remember thinking, this is not the life that I want for myself. And I prayed and I said, I don't want to spend the rest of my life taking tablets. I remember the 2 tablets I used to take, carbamazepine and phenobarbital, and I
Mm.
hate it. My grandparents would literally force me to take these tablets. Then one time I just decided I'm done. I'm not taking tablets anymore. I am fine. I am healed. I decided that I no longer have epilepsy.
Wow. Okay.
Stopped taking my medication, and this worked for me. I'm not saying everyone should go that route, but I'm just saying the power of the mind. I'm now not saying get off your medication, because my convictions were, for me. I got
Mm.
off medication and I stopped. What got me caught out, because I had a supply for, I think, about 3 months, but I forgot to tell them that, because they used to keep track. Then I didn't tell them that my tablets are finished. So they'd been keeping track to say, oh, but you haven't told us that your medication is finished. So What are you taking? It's already been 2 weeks. And that's when I got out that I haven't been taking my medication. But I tell you, for those 3 months, I had no epileptic fit. I had no headaches. I was fine. And then I say to them, oh, sorry, I forgot. And then I got another batch of medication. I didn't take that. I just kept them. A
Wow.
year later, with no epileptic fits, nothing of that sort, they realized that for a year I had not been taking my medication because I had just been keeping it in the cupboard. And that's when my grandparents just said, okay, if you really believe that you are okay, then you're okay, you're fine. But if you feel anything, let us know. And from that moment, I kind of had an inclination that if I tell myself something, there must be power in that. And from then on, slowly but surely, without really, because I didn't have an understanding of this thing until later in life, where it became, oh, it's what affirmations are. It's what you speak to yourself. I found myself telling myself things, the life that I wanted to live, the things that I wanted to do. And when I would focus my mind on that thing, that's how. 20 I have a journal from 2009, my first journal that I bought. I wrote down, I want to study skin and health. I want to go to this school. How? I didn't have any money. I didn't have any way of financing my studies to come and study in South Africa, coming from Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
But I knew was I am going to study at Camelot and I'm going to do skin and health therapy. How it would happen was not my problem. I put it out there. I left it. That's all I dreamt. And oh my gosh, I was consumed by this thing. I looked at other schools. They did not speak to me. The one school that I saw, I said, this is where I'm going to. This is 2009. Fast forward 2012, I was starting my first year. And I completed my studies in 2014. So I got to be at the school that I wanted. How of how it was going to happen
Yeah.
was not for me to worry about. I needed to be clear about my vision and the thing that I wanted to do. And that is the beauty of affirmations. You have to have that conviction in your heart that this is what I want and this is what I want to do. And you have to believe, you have to live in it, believe in it, that it's already done for me. Because when God created us, he said, and I blessed them. So it means that God has already given us everything that we need in this life. We are just living out the life that has been prepared for us. But there's so many voices that want to speak to us, that tell us that we don't deserve, or we're not the caliber for that kind of life, because we
Yeah.
just we just live in a world that wants to tell us otherwise. But you have to believe that I don't care about everybody else. I am believing for myself, and I'm going to get what was set for me before time.
Wow. Sure. Yeah. You've just opened another can of worms that I think we need an entire episode and
Mhm.
have a couple of healthcare professionals being part of it. And
Yeah.
one thing people need to understand, especially our listeners, we're not promoting defaulting on your treatment or your medication.
Yes.
This was your journey. It is important
Yes.
that you understand and know your journey. What works for me
Yes.
will not work for you. That is why the default is what is deemed normal. And
Yes.
you mentioned meditation. That alone is something else. Like, I'm gonna come back to everything you've said, but I'm just trying to break it. Like, what is meditation?
For me personally, meditation is the things that I think about, what I spend my time focusing on.
Mm,
Because um when they talk about meditation, from my understanding, it's, being centered, be clearing your mind so that, you're focused on where you want to go, the thing that you want to achieve, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I keep track of my thoughts to say, who am I? Who am I becoming? Where am I going? What do I want to attract in my life? Or what kind of life do I want? And so I center myself in that space, in carrying myself in that way to say, if this is where Tash is going, then this is how she carries herself. This is how she sees herself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I look at meditation, in how I think about. So even when I'm going through difficult times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to focus on the thing that's going wrong, or is my focus on, okay, it's going wrong, but where is the light at the end of the tunnel? Can I see the light at the end of the tunnel? Because the reality is, situations are going to arise, problems are going to come up, but what is my attitude in that moment when when things are going wrong? Do I start going down the rabbit hole of being negative and saying, war is me, nothing ever goes right for me? Or do I remind myself that, okay, this is happening, but there
Mm-hmm.
is a way out? And that for me is how I meditate. It's in focusing on the bigger picture and saying, okay, this is just but a small piece of the puzzle of the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Back again. Just to recap, we were saying someone is saying, I think you don't understand what I'm going through, and you are just talking because you've read some good books, and you just put a stamp on it in that you've also had to carry your own cross. You've also had to go through things, And one thing we need to understand is that we often assume that when someone has what we lack, they have it all figured out, and that's not always
Yeah.
the case. I'll give an example. Someone that's walking wishes to have a car, but someone in a wheelchair wishes to walk. So
Yeah.
everyone is carrying their own cross, and it's easy to assume that someone else, just because they have what you have, they have what you need, that they have it all figured it out, like it's all good. And it's not always the case. And now you mentioned meditation, and in a moment of hard times, trials, etc., when do you find that motivation not to give up, or to just say, you know what, I'll just take life as it comes? But where do you get the drive and the motivation to want to understand what meditation is, and for you to get into that zone and actually meditate, given all the problems that you're experiencing at that given time?
For me, the biggest has been my spiritual life and relationship with God. I'll tell you, that is what has seen me through, because there are situations that I've gone through in life where I thought I wasn't going to make it, and I'm still here today.
Mm,
And when I look back at those moments, I like to journal a lot. So that always stands as a reminder for me when I look back at life and I say, I went through that and I'm still here. So it means that there is still hope for me. This
mm,
hurts. This really hurts. I've learned to sit in my pain, feel it, so
mm,
that when I speak to myself and I tell myself the pain, deal with the pain, so that when I come out of it, I come out of it knowing that I allowed myself to feel, so that when I take the next step, I'm not carrying the baggage of that pain and sitting on it and saying, oh, I felt that, or I'm still feeling this. No, I allow myself, if I have to cry, I cry. But it
mm,
isn't knowing that I've had, I've gone through stuff and I
mm.
survived.
Wow.
And so
And
I still
yeah,
make,
please carry on. Mhm.
yeah.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. You know, it's so difficult trying to speak life over someone to a point that it's almost impossible because when you do that, the answer is always like you don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, you don't understand. You haven't gone through this, and I like that we touched on that. And you also mentioned journals. Like, what is a journal? And you keep on bringing all these deep, great things, but how do they like link together? Take us through the journey. Like, what is this?
Okay, so I started journaling in 2009. I didn't even know, I had no idea what I was doing. I stumble upon these things somehow. So journaling for me, it's a notebook. It's a
Mhm.
notebook that I take. And my first journal that I bought was so that I could write my dream about coming to study in South Africa.
Mm,
And that's where I wrote down my vision and I said, this is what I want to do. These are the plans that I have, but I don't even know if these plans are going to work. And they never worked out that way, but I still came to South Africa and I still studied what I wanted to study. And so journaling is just a space where you are able to write down your dreams, your visions, your things that sometimes some people use it as an outlet, as a diary,
mhm,
write down their feelings if they can't speak about what they're feeling. So it just depends on how you want to use it for, what you want to use it for, whether it's writing your goals, your dreams and visions, whether it's an outlet if you don't feel like people hear you or you're being misunderstood. You need somewhere where you can let these things out. And so by journaling, and it also helps in a way that when you look back 5 years from now, sometimes I'll sit with my journals from 2009 to date,
mm,
and I look at the things that I've written in them, and I'm like, wow, I went through that, or I was in that space, and now I can track, and I'm like, I've definitely made progress in my life. I am no longer where I was, because I think what keeps us stuck in what you were saying, that you don't understand what I'm going through, is we don't have a way of checking our progress as humans. We do
mm,
that at work, we do that in different environments. In school, there's a progress report. But what progress check are you doing for your own personal life? Where are
mm,
you keeping a record of where you've been and where you're going? If
mm,
you were praying for a car, you've forgotten that at some point this was a prayer point. And now you're thinking, oh, I need this. And you're forgetting that there was a point where you thought having a car was an attainable dream. But now that you've had it, you don't even appreciate or realize that you're actually living out your blessing.
yeah.
You forget
Sure.
because life is happening and things are progressing. But as humans, we keep wanting more and more and more, so that, and we forget where we've come from. So we don't have time to appreciate and just say, actually, thank you for where I am. I might not have everything that I want. And that heart of gratitude is a golden heart. It
Wow.
opens
I think, yeah,
that we
we
never
we
imagined.
have
But
to.
yeah,
Sorry?
with, and sorry, I was saying that's a golden heart because you can speak, but if you're not grateful, then you're not connecting to the blessing that's there for you, because it almost becomes like an entitlement. Just being
Mm,
thankful and saying thank you for what I have is the most beautiful thing.
wow. Sure. It's been, yeah, yeah. There's just so much we need to unpack. I don't know why you like. I asked for like a small handgun, and you always bring like nuclear stuff, big guns. And now I don't even know like which route to take because there's just so much. And if you realize we haven't even talked affirmation, and we said we're going to talk affirmations, and
I
in fact
know.
we've just laid a bit of like foundation, but not all, because you're mentioning now dreams, writing your dreams down, you're talking vision, you know what? I think for now, let's wrap it up and then let's continue
Sorry,
again next week on
sorry,
affirmations. Uh-huh.
just to add something quickly. Sorry, I was saying just to add something quickly. I think before we even, and now that you mention it, I think sometimes we need to actually go back to the basics before we can, because like you're saying, someone will ask, what is an affirmation? But if you don't understand where it all comes from, then it's not going to make sense because you have to start somewhere. You have to
Mm,
start by writing a message for yourself. That's a beautiful affirmation. And write, today is a beautiful day.
mm,
So that when you look back on that date, then you can say that affirmation worked because that day was a beautiful day. This
mm.
you've got a record of that. So we are building from that so that when we then do talk about affirmations, it resonates with those that are listening or who've never heard what this is about.
Wow. Yeah. Sure. Okay, no. Let's continue then with the basics. Let's exhaust this. Then we can really talk affirmations. I think, yeah, we need to lay this foundation and make sure it's solid. And then we can start, laying bricks like windows frames, door frames, etc. So yeah, with
Indeed.
that said, let's wrap it up here. And thank you so much, Natasha. And sure, yeah, it's been a good one. And I wish you all the best. And we do need people like you to keep us going forward, to refuel our souls, to refuel our energies, that we can become who we're meant to be. There's a reason why we're here on earth. And thank you so much for making yourself available, given your busy schedule. And may you have a great day further. And this is Easter weekend, and may you also enjoy, take some rest, get time to reflect, and may you come back next week refreshed, energized, and ready to take on the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And it's
Thank
been great
you.
being here once again. And I look forward to our next conversation.